And I'd like to welcome you here tonight to this event. This is a vegan lifestyle speaking tour. And Lee, down the end here, is from Cruelty Free Super, and it's because of Cruelty Free Super that this event exists tonight. And none of us here are accepting any money for this, not doing it for that at all, but we're here to raise money for Edgar's mission. And Pam is here on behalf of Edgar's mission, and so I know you gave a donation when you came through, but if you'd like to give any more money as a gratitude for the speakers tonight or for the lovely food you got from Loving Hut, please feel free to give it in a monetary way to Edgar's mission, and even to volunteer or to help out in other ways at Edgar's. And I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. I'd like to thank Loving Hut for the food, and we've also got brownies at the back from Addiction Food, so I hope everyone got to try them because they're quite yum. And we've also got Billy Simmons here, and he will also be speaking later on. And Billy's from Prana On, he'll be talking about his business. And today we've sort of got, Pano will also be joining us from Pana Chocolate. He's just running a little bit late. And we've sort of got a bit of a business feel tonight. So hopefully that will help with a lot of people. Hopefully you'll learn a lot from that. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight, and like to thank past, present, future landholders, and I'd like to say that if you take any photos tonight, and we encourage you to take photos tonight, could you please use the hashtag cruelty-free-super. And if you're not following us, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube and Google+. So make sure you tag Cruelty Free Super or any of the people here on the panel, and I believe everyone has all of those channels. And I'm also filming this, and we'll be filming everyone's talk. What we'll be doing is going through, I'll introduce everyone, and everyone will speak for 15 minutes. And if you have any questions, please keep them in your heads, because after the 15-minute talks from everyone, we'll be opening up a Q&A little forum sort of session at the end. So we just did this last night, Lee, Billy and myself in Brisbane, and it was really great, and it's in particular the Q&A afterwards. So I look forward to hearing your great questions for everyone on the panel. And yeah, we're here to raise money for Edgar's mission, and we're here to educate you and encourage you to lead more compassionate lives and think outside the square and live more kinder lives. So how many people here are vegan at the moment? What about vegetarian? What about don't really care about either? Okay, one down the back, I saw you. And so I've been vegan. My name is leigh-chantelle, and I run a website called vivalavegan.net. I've been vegan for 20 years in January, and the website's been going for 10 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary. And a lot of things have changed over that time in the vegan movement. Some for the good. Lots of people know the word, or at least their version of the word, or the plant-based diet, I think. And so we're getting into the mainstream, which is really important. And today we're going to talk about various reasons why people started their organisations and their businesses, and how we can maybe go forward into the future with getting mainstream on board, getting other people on board, and as I said before, leading by compassion. And I release some books. I do a lot of interviews with people and articles, and I've just released a new book on vegan athletes. There's over 100 vegan athletes from all over the world that I've interviewed in that. Billy Simmons from Prana On is one of those, and ask him a lot of questions, including the question we all get asked: where do you get your protein from? And so Billy might even go through some of his favourite plant-based protein sources tonight, so I'm sure you're all looking forward to finding out about that. And I'd like to share just my story of when I met Billy 5 or 6 years ago now. I was doing some vegan festivals in Brisbane, Brisbane's first vegan and environmental festival. It was called Cruelty Free Festival, and then we had Cruelty Free, no, sorry, what am I talking about? Green Earth Festival was the name in 2010, and then Green Earth Day was in 2011. And one of our mutual friends, Billy's and I, Reese, he suggested that Billy would be a great speaker at my festival. And he came and gave a talk about plant-based protein and about being a vegan bodybuilder and how he was Mr. Universe. And around this sort of time, Billy was trialling a protein that he wanted to bring into the market. And he gave samples to Reese and I one time, and he just mixed a little bit with some water. And we were very impressed because it tasted quite good even with the water. And I'm sure a lot of you know a lot of a lot of proteins in general don't really taste that great, in particular with a little bit of water. So we were really impressed how great the protein tasted, and cut to 6 years later, Prana is a multi-million-dollar business, and Billy has been growing strength to strength with the business, and it's really great to see vegan businesses do that. And Billy joined this event so that he could educate and inspire other vegan business owners, and so they can succeed and live their dream by choosing their path that's truly right for them. And tonight he's going to share his experience in conscious capitalism and how an idea has transformed into an international multi-million-dollar business that's ethically driven, cruelty-free, eco-friendly, and an employer of choice for many vegans. And he's going to share his insights into the importance of building the right team for growth and making vegan products and services succeed in the mainstream market, which is very important. In case you don't know, Billy is a former Mr. Universe natural bodybuilding champion. He's a powerlifter, martial artist, entrepreneur, and vegan spokesperson. His past business and professional experience is extremely diverse, ranging from an executive in corporate banking to stunt fighting, and he played Batman at Warner Brothers Movie World. He's now the director of Eco Superfoods, and this is the company behind leading nutrition brands Prana On and Kaya Health. Please welcome Billy Simmons.
Thanks, Elsie. Where's that here? Everyone wants to hear the voice now, don't they? As soon as you say Batman, everyone's like, oh, do the voice, do the voice.
Are you going to?
Yeah. So, not Batman anymore. I've still got a cape. So this is the brand that I'm behind. I'm talking a little bit more kind of at a high level tonight, so it's not a product vlog. In fact, we don't even have brochures or samples of the product, so this is more about just the intention behind the brand and its place in the market, and also what's driven it as well. So a lot of people see a certain level of success and can't appreciate maybe the blood and sweat behind it, and what I believe has been my mission. So I've been involved in the fitness community for quite a few years. I never was a bodybuilder, I was a martial artist. That was my passion and always has been and still is. But I started bodybuilding actually because I was told I couldn't do it. So I was vego and my friends were all bodybuilders and into roids and all this sort of stuff. And they just laughed at me and thought, you can never be a bodybuilder. So I thought, all right, I'll show you guys. And then within 5 years, I went over to California, won the Mr. Universe, and got my pro card. So that was enough to shut them up about that. And I never competed again. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get on with the rest of my life. And it's an interesting sport because it pulls you away from everything else. So now I surf, I train in CrossFit, I still do powerlifting, all that kind of stuff. But bodybuilding, competition-wise, I thought, quit while you're ahead. And what's driven the brand was a few things. The fitness community is really entrenched with this idea that you need animal protein to succeed and to build muscle and to achieve the sort of level that I got to without eating it. So that was really the purpose that drove me to compete. And then behind the brand as well, I thought, you know, this community needs, I suppose, a gateway to start opening their minds up to what plant-based is all about. And the whey proteins out there are all great, like the flavours are really cool, and the plant proteins just sucked. And I thought this is not compelling enough to get anyone across to this movement because, you know, in that world, if you're training hard, you need protein. So I still eat a high protein diet. I don't eat fruit all day or ride a bike. So what works for me might not work for anyone else, but I still eat a high protein diet. And just because you're anti-meat or anti-animal products doesn't mean you need to be anti-protein. And when I say high, I mean about 30% of my calories. So it's still not high by, you know, comparison to, say, some of these meatheads out there, but compared to like some of these other, in the vegan community, they scorn it if, you know, your protein is above 10% or something like that. So with Brana, we're a 100% vegan company. We manufacture the stuff ourselves. I source all the ingredients. We run the business, the manufacturing process using 100% renewable energy. You know, I know the origin of where our ingredients come from. I'm pretty particular about that. And, you know, we've got a lot of vegans that work for us. Not everyone is, but most are, because they get what we're about. So they come in and want to be part of that movement. That's just me. So this is actually really interesting, these two photos. So one is literally a meathead supplement shop. So that's in Brisbane. And the guy that's, not these guys, it's a different store, but the guys that run that are your typical bodybuilders, you know, on the gear and you know, pushing whatever it is they push. But we have got pride of place in that store, which is phenomenal because it just shows that by resonating with the mainstream, we're now, you know, getting a whole community that had their blinkers on to embrace what plant-based is about, and that's been the mission. So creating great flavours, great products, things that people use now, and spreading the message of vegan and plant-based means that now these guys are going to be exposed to an alternative. And that's what it's always been, just present an alternative, and hopefully we can get more people to make better choices. This photo over here is kind of significant to me because I worked in that, I'm going to show my age now. I had a job there when I was 15 years old, so that's 20 years ago, and that's in Southport on the Gold Coast. And that's part of the reason I went veg. I was working there. It was a bit of a racket actually. I was filling up all the bulk food bins, and the storage room was like a few floors upstairs. So they let me in this room with all this food, like I'm talking chocolate coated bananas and all sorts of things. So I'd surf all morning and then just have to fill these bins up with food, and literally I think more went into me than went into the bins. But the people that worked there, they had so much energy. There was something about them, and their eyes were really clear, and they just embraced life. And the common denominator was they're all veg. So I thought there's something in that. And against my parents' wishes, I started to give it a go. And the meals that I made, I was able to eat the foods that I wanted to eat, and they were vegetarian. At night, I just ate whatever was in front of me. So it took a couple of years before I was out of that environment to then start making better choices. But that job made a real impression on me. And 20 years later, we are the #1 selling brand out of there. The same manager is still there, which is incredible. And you know, it's just really nice to go back, and it gives me that sense of community as well, and that sort of circle of life that your reputation and if you really, I guess, go back to sort of finding out where your truth came from, that often that's where the answers are as well. So, you know, I wouldn't have imagined that would ever happen, but I guess the relationship that I had with that place has resulted in it, and yeah, I'm really proud of that. So I think to succeed, and what's helped me, and when we talk about, you know, leigh-chantelle was talking about the success of the business, you know, that's great, but for me, I think business is just an extension of yourself. It's an expression. I'm in the fitness community, that works for me. I've always been involved with it to some degree, and so being in that community still is really easy for me. I know a lot of the people, and I've been around long enough to have a reputation that people know what I stand for. So I was eating plants before it was cool, and I was paid out, and I was told you're not going to win, you're not going to succeed, and it didn't faze me. And so years later, you know, just on the weekend, last weekend here in Melbourne, I was speaking at the Filex, which is a massive fitness event, the biggest in Australia. A few years ago, they would have chased me out of there. They wouldn't want to know about plant-based nutrition. And now they want to have me at the key time and speaking to every day of that event, which is phenomenal. So more and more people are getting exposed to the way animal products are produced and the cruelty, the ethics, the health implications. And in the fitness community, it's really interesting, they call it a health and fitness event. But those two terms aren't linked. They're not explicitly, married to each other. I see a lot of people that are fit that aren't very healthy. So what we do at Prana is we try and bring people back into that fold that they can be healthy and fit by this sort of lifestyle. So not taking steroids, real basic, eating plant-based nutrition. So that's really been my purpose, I suppose, to build on those passions that I've always had, and it's a community that I can speak to. Getting the right team for me was really important, and my business partner in this photo here, that was taken in 2011, so we started running samples of Prana back then. So most people see it as a new brand, but the story began years prior. And the reason for that slide was just to sort of say that it's much better to share success and share that journey with others than it is to try and do it all yourself. So, when I came back, Teddy, you'll know this from America, after I had a first crack at trying to get this going, and I came back and reconnected with my now business partner George. But it was the fact that I'd never strayed from what I believed and what I was going to do. I didn't give up on that mission. That I was able to get a great team together. So that was taken in Dubai this year. So Prana now exports to Asia, Middle East, New Zealand, and soon America. So I'm really proud of the team we've got. Every one of those people are vegan as well. So they've just gravitated towards the business because they just get what we're about. So that's been really great to work with friends and work with people that I love that also share the same ethics and values that I do. So the mission has always been getting the brand out to the mainstream. I think if you're going to succeed in a passion that you've got, it's about realising that first you've got to be really good at it. You've got to have a profile, you've got to be someone who's seen as a leader in that field, but then create an opportunity for the mainstream. So with our products, we're always thinking about not just the vegan and vegetarian market, we want to appeal to everyone. We think that vegans and vegetarians, they get what we're about, but we really think that the success lies and the biggest opportunity lies with bringing people across to this. So we're going to talk about how the business is doing. Don't worry, I still don't earn any money. So the business is doing really well. I was working as Batman and I was paying staff at the same time. So, for me, it's about giving back. And this event I'm not getting paid for. I'm speaking at schools and donating money to animal sanctuaries this year, which is phenomenal. Speaking in high schools and turning whole school halls and classrooms into vegan. But if it's a labour of love, it doesn't matter. So the business can do well, and I'd rather create a vehicle for other people to realise their dreams, because it's my dream to be doing what I'm doing, which is what I love, and being involved in the community that I know and spreading a positive message. So I source all the ingredients and the manufacturing process. So that's one of the latest flavours. That's in an organic farm that one of our products. And I don't know why I put that photo up, but there it is. So, so this is just taken back in Melbourne, but it's phenomenal. We were the busiest stand. We're a vegan company. A few years ago in the fitness community, we would have been a pariah, and we're now seen as the brand, which is phenomenal. So I'm really proud of that, because everyone's got their points about why they might go vegan. I've known people that have worked in a town where there's an abattoir, and they just said it's a really dark place. I know people that have been got health issues. I know people that suddenly make the connection between seeing another animal that they know, say a dog, and then sort of seeing it that same bond or feeling that when they look at a cow or just at any other animal. So it's just phenomenal to be able to. This market, everyone here is about chicken and meat and eggs, and now they're thinking plant-based protein, and they're asking me the same question that I always get asked, which is that, where do you get your protein? So we'll go through that. Just to take a step back. So that's Gold's Gym Bondi Beach is about to open up. there's only one supplement brand in that whole gym that they want to stock, and it's ours. So that's the most iconic name in fitness in the world, arguably the most popular beach in the world. So it's a prime location, and they want the brand. They believe in it. You know, the guys behind that business aren't vegan, but they know what I stand for, they know what the brand stands for, and they know that the future is vegan. And so, you know, if you can provide service to others that's aligned with your passions in that way, then the market and the community are catching up with us, you know. So everyone kind of raised their hand, most of the people, about being vegan or vegetarian here. So you've got a great future ahead of you. You know, the world's catching on. So we're in a hall tonight, but you know, this kind of thing is happening all around the country every day of the week. So where do I get my protein? I'm answering this one for you, I'll see. So I eat these kind of foods. I mean, where do I get my protein? There's about a heap down there I'm probably going to eat after this event. So the sort of things I eat are beans, seeds, greens. As I mentioned, I still do eat a high protein diet. I need that for what I do. But most of my calories still come from carbs. Meat is the loser when it comes to protein. And I show this to the bodybuilding community in the mainstream, and you can't deny it. So you're getting, you know, the same amount of protein, but more iron, more fibre, no cholesterol, that sort of thing. So it's this is becoming mainstream knowledge. So what I've been saying for years, and what everyone else here knows, it's becoming more and more prevalent that we're not carnivores. So it's just so obvious now, the information. The internet's the best thing that's ever happened to the vegan movement. You know, last year, a massive thing happened. Well, the World Health Organization comes out and says, it's killing you, meat. So it's just so good to get these types of endorsements out there in the marketplace. And you know, that gives us all a vehicle then to share the message, because it's becoming much more well known. Yeah. So I don't put a price on my health. Neither should you. You should eat well. Just because you're vegan, you know, you still got to eat well and eat healthily. But then I get this argument from people that aren't vegan. So they say it must be expensive to go vegan. Actually, rice and vegetables and plant-based foods are the healthiest and cheapest foods you can get. And you know, I don't put a price on my health. So I think that if you're going to invest in something, invest in good food. So I think that's everything I've got. Yeah, okay, cool. So we're going to do a Q&A at the end. And I haven't really talked much about Prana, but it's out there online. You can see about it. We've got heaps of stockists down here. So if you've heard that out there, that you know people in the fitness community that are taking supplements. You know, our brand is 100% vegan, run by vegans. We donate to animal activists and animal organisations. So, you know, we're probably the only company that does that in that community. So, you know, that's cool for us. We're happy to be there, and we wear it proudly. So, so that's me. I've got the buzzer. So I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.
So there's many reasons why people go vegan, and there's so many reasons why you should stay vegan. So if you're only vegan for a particular reason, like say I went vegan for animals and for animal rights, if you only know about the health aspects, if you only know about the environmental aspects, the feminism aspects, human rights aspects, I really encourage you to find out more about the other aspects. And we always need to be learning. We always need to be learning more about different things that we're not aware of, or that we're not in those sort of areas. So please do your research. And I'm sure some of the things people talk about today might raise some questions as well. So please don't believe what we all say. Go and find out more information for yourself. And for me, I went vegan originally for animals and animal rights, because I don't believe that we should be eating anyone when we don't need to be eating them. And it's just my way of putting compassion into action. And it just began a whole life of learning about different compassionate things and learning about other aspects of why veganism is important. And I'd like to introduce you to Pana today. And he's just come in from Sydney, and he's just come from some meetings, so we're glad that you could make it. And he had donated some of his amazing chocolate tonight, but it has gotten lost. But if you're, and that's not Billy's fault, not Billy's fault, but tomorrow we're doing the same thing in Sydney, so we will be giving it to the Sydney people. Good for them, bad for you. So, but I'm talking about Sydney. If you have any friends or family who are in Sydney, please invite them to come to our event tomorrow. It's at 2 p.m. We've got Katrina Fox. She's speaking about her amazing new book called Vegan Ventures and why it's great to have vegan businesses, and she uses a great phrase about vegan businesses is your sort of way of being an activist. So I think that brings us very nicely to Pana, and he says that the speaking tour, he got involved with this so that he could provide a great opportunity to share his Pana chocolate story and speak with like-minded individuals to answer questions about the growth of his business while still maintaining his ethical and sustainable focus. He's going to share about how Pana Chocolate has been able to create a chocolate for everyone, irrespective of dietary requirements, and how the brand has expanded into new territories and received exciting new opportunities, allowing Pana Chocolate to be consumed in 25 countries. And only 3 years ago, was it? The chocolate? 4 years ago, Pana had a dream, and it was to create a rich, luxurious and good-for-you chocolate that the whole world could enjoy, and that's when Pana Chocolate was born. Pana is a vegan with a lifelong career in hospitality, a strong appreciation of organic natural food, and a passion for the artisan way. Pana and Pana Chocolate believe in abiding by 3 standards: the quality of Pana Chocolate, the health of your insides, and the sustainability of the earth. Please welcome Pana Barbonas.
So those who don't know me, I am Pana Barbonas. I'm the founder of Pana Chocolate. As was mentioned, I started about 4 years ago, and it was more of a lifelong journey in food and passion that I had for food. But it was more so coming out of my 30s where I'd really worked a sort of a conventional way, I believe, and I fulfilled a lot of things in business, but I wasn't nourished and I wasn't really satisfied. So then I took a couple of years off and I reassessed where I was at, and I was really into my organic food, and I wasn't exactly vegan at the time, believe it or not, I was vegetarian. And then I knew I was going to get there, and then I started playing around in the kitchen with some chocolate about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And then I launched Pana Chocolate about 4 years ago. And the whole, I had this clear strategy on how I wanted to base my business and what space I wanted to play in. And it was, we took from the packaging, it's all 100% recycled cardboard with vegetable-based things. So we're really all about the environment. But more importantly, going down the vegan path. We decided that we were going to be ethical in a few different ways, which space we're going to play with and who we're going to play with. As was mentioned, once we launched, it was a clear strategy that we weren't going to be in the major supermarkets. We were going to be aligned with some really good ethical businesses, health food stores and organic stores, and really support them. What we do find ourselves now is with that agenda and that sort of strategy, we find ourselves in 2,500 stores just in Australia. Over 1,000 stores overseas, and we've got some countries like France, that is just one of the fastest growing countries for us in the world. Belgium, I think, has got about 40 stores now. We're even located 30 stores in Iceland. So much so that the journey's been absolutely amazing. I'm purely a vegan and passionate vegan. And recently, I'm not sure if many of you heard, sticking to what we do, and it's a big movement at the moment. It's the right time, and as businesses, we stick to what we do. We're actually quite attractive at the moment we launched a couple of things that have been world first as Panna Chocolate. We launched the first raw vegan dessert store in the world in 2013 in August, which now has found a few more have sprouted around the world. But more important, well, a really big win for us was Etihad Stadium, which is a really big sports stadium that has 2.5 million people through there a year, and we were one of the first chocolates in the world to go exclusive with a sports stadium. We've got a 3-year agreement there, and we knocked out one of the majors, and we're finding that all the time. People are moving, people are shifting, they're moving into that vegan world. Like, we've stuck with what we believe. Look, in business, I'm not, you need to balance it to make sure that you do have that right ethos. But for us, we've just stuck to our guns, and even so, we had a big department store, and this is about vegans being in business and the success. But we had a big department store in the UK who wanted exclusivity for 6 months, and we did a bit of research on the company because we like to be stocked everywhere, but we can't control where we're stocked, and we have butcher shops that stock us, unfortunately. But what can we do? We're still in there. But we had a big department store in the UK that wanted exclusivity, and they still sell fur coats. So we decided that we weren't going to supply them, and that stuff gets us a long way because that gets out there and we get known for that. And we're really growing and just finding some great partners all over the world with that. So I'm a little bit dishevelled. I just straight from the airport had to go quickly grab some stuff and come back here. Hopefully, if I don't cover off too much, you can all ask me in the Q&A a bit later. As a company, sticking to what we do and where we're at, we've been quite successful. We're 4.5 years old, and last year we turned over $8 million, and this year we're going to hit the $10 million mark, which is really exciting. But more importantly, what we're doing as a company, we're able to give back, and we do align ourselves with some great organisations, with all the vegan societies from all over the world. But really, as a Panna Chocolate company, one of the biggest focuses for us is planting trees. At the end of this year, we would have put 34,000 trees into the ground. So as a vegan company, not only are we sticking to what we believe in, and we have a great following, a great supporter base all over the world, but we're also giving back. So it's quite important. I'll probably wrap it up. I think
I'd like you to tell us about the raw vegan restaurant, please.
Yeah. Great. So there was an idea when I started the chocolate. I thought, what further can we showcase what we can do in this space? And I was just dabbling in the raw food, and I'm a passionate foodie, so I love my food. I grew up in a very rich cultural environment, so food was everything, was the expression, and it's part of Panna Chocolate. It's not it's an experience. I created for an experience. So when you fill the package, you feel its texture, then you open it, you feel that it's hand wrapped, then you experience the chocolate and you enjoy it, and it's all that love and the passion that goes into it. We really have people that wrap it. We don't use any machinery, but so what I wanted to do was showcase what further I can do in the desserts, and I played around with desserts, and being in the hospitality industry most of my life, I actually hadn't, and loving to cook, I hadn't cooked many desserts, and I just wanted to sort of play around, and I thought we had some space down in our warehouse down in Richmond on Church Street, and I thought we'll open up a raw vegan dessert store, and lo and behold, it's sort of locking myself another month and a half away, playing around with some little delicacies and desserts. We launched it, and it was so successful. I think the first sort of couple of months we had queues going right out the store. So that was in August 2013. So which is amazing, and even all our hot chocolate, it's all done with nut milk. So quite successful. So successful that about a month ago I was in the UK, and I had Harrods come and approach me and ask for a pop-up in their location for 6 months. Since then we've opened up a flagship store in Sydney, and I think we've got 4 or 5 pop-ups with the raw vegan dessert store. So quite a lot of success with that, but let me tell you, the first cakes that we were making was literally me making some cashews, soaking some cashews overnight, mixing them together, and just basically just a bunch of mint leaves, and really having that sort of garden explosion flavour. Then it was so successful that I actually had some restaurants at the time, and I brought some qualified pastry chefs, and took it to what it looks like today. So those who have seen the cakes, it's not all my doing. The way they look so beautiful. Like, I was a bit rougher than that. Yeah, not as polished. So yeah.
What other people help you to bring your business to how it is today? Like staff?
Oh, staff, I mean, absolutely. We've got a crew of about 80 now, and I've got some of the most amazing people. And when we talk about staff, I've got, I think, 4 of our first 5 employees still within the company. I think Jason's in the back there. He's been through the office. Those who have been, when we take them through the warehouse and there's people wrapping and enjoying their chocolate, they're all smiling, they're all happy, they're working with chocolate, they're getting that love and that energy, and it's just a great feeling. And I've had some senior people, and that's been a challenge for me as a business operator, being, I did create this, and what I want to do, because I took it was a sort of a vegan product, which I didn't want it to play in that hippie space. I thought if I played in that hippie space, my growth would be limited. It's like I quite often say, who is your competition? And I say to people, well, I don't have competition because I want to work together with all other raw vegan chocolate companies, because I don't want to compete for the same customer in the health food stores. It's really important for us to bring a wider audience, and that's where Pana Chocolate must have played. And it's why we're all friends with all the other raw vegan companies, not only just in chocolate companies, not only in Australia, but in Europe. We're trying to launch it with a European, it's a Holland company. We're trying to launch together in the Japanese market, so we can both go in there and educate the market. We can't all survive on our own, and that's where I created a product that wasn't going to play just in that space, that would play out in a wider audience, and it's really important. And that's where we have been, and we're now sort of really rolling out in a lot of hotels. I think we just in the Art Series hotels we just rolled out as well. So we're really getting into some good spaces because we've been able to be a vegan product, but also play in that commercial space and stick to what we believe in.
Do you promote the fact that it's a vegan company?
Look, there's big shift in that. I mean, 4 years ago, I remember doing trade shows, and people would come and we normally cut out samples, and people would walk past, and we've got a list of what we are. We're raw, organic, handmade, and it was funny. It's 4 years ago, and you say it's vegan, but now it's hip. Now everyone's sort of, it's vegan, it must be good for you. It's amazing how the market just in that time has changed. And we've seen a big shift. So, and then hence, Eddie had, we sold alongside meat pies, unfortunately. But at least we're offering one vegan meal and then making the change. And I think they just brought on the guys, Daniel with Thank You, and they got some really great stuff. But there's change. It's just a slow movement in some spaces, but it's getting out there. Any more questions?
Can you just talk about the differences between your chocolate and what existed before you brought it onto the market? Why did you think this should be created?
To me, it was I suppose why it was created. It was created because I was looking at the next phase of my working life, to be honest, and I was involved, and I actually started this off as a part-time business. And I just thought, I like the old trades. We're losing too many of the old trades, and your cobblers and your chocolatiers, the notion of that romanticism and all that, and being sort of involved with the hands and creating something that's real, that's true, that's made with love. And that's very cliche, but it's genuinely, it is. And so it just, I wanted to commercialise something, but just play around with it and enjoy it, and the success has been phenomenal.
And what was the difference? Like, you created, say for example, it's raw, organic. Why are they important to you?
It's all about the nutrients and the food. It was funny because even if you look at our texture to conventional chocolate, there's quite a difference. Ours is quite softer in texture. And I actually sat on that for 2-3 months, and I got a lot of feedback from friends, a lot of good friends at the time who were happy to try the chocolate. But it was because I just didn't want to apply too much machinery. I wanted to make something that could work, was tasty, and like anything, like most I read an article the other day, and it's like how the milk industry made us believe that we need milk. It's like everything's been marketed to us for centuries, and chocolates, it's supposed to have this certain snap. Well, if you want a snap, put it in the fridge, cool it down, and have the same snap. Just moving out and thinking outside the square, really, for me. Yeah.
I'll let you go.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. so Panna sort of was speaking about touched on a few things there, and I find lately that the media is really focusing on dietary aspects, health aspects, fitness aspects, and even weight loss aspects of veganism. And there's so many different things that go along with being vegan. And one of them is animals and our animal friends. And I'm sure a lot of you know that animals are not treated very well, abused, injured, killed, just for other people to eat them and consume their products, and this isn't very cool. And there's many different ways that we can educate people about why this is wrong, or how it affects other people or yourself if you partake in these sort of things. And there's many different ways that you can get the message out. You could, for example, share some videos of some animals in an animal sanctuary. You could share photos of an animal at an animal sanctuary. You could share some really good stories of how an animal that was abused has now been given a better life from being in an animal sanctuary. And I'd love for you to show if you've actually shared any of those things from Edgar's mission. I know a lot of you probably have. And that's amazing, and Pam's done some really wonderful work over the past 10 or 15, how long? 13 years. And I just wanted to share a story of when I first met Pam. I was with my good friend Jessica Bailey, who runs a cruelty-free shop in Sydney and in Melbourne. We've got Paul here from the Melbourne store. And we went out there to see the old Edgar's mission when it was like in the very, very early stages. And Pam showed us this space, and she said, I want this to be here and I want that to be here. And there wasn't even the good fences that you had afterwards. It was, very rustic, but animals were free, and the pigs came and greeted us, and it was beautiful. And then a few years later we went and visited again, and just to see how it had grown, and just to see how much work had gone into the place. And I know for a fact Pam does not sleep very much, and she's always on 24/7 and does a lot of things. And just before she came here tonight, she was doing an interview, and I'm really pleased that you were able to take the time to join us tonight. And she's going to talk about various things about Edgar's mission. And Pam believes that animals are their own best ambassadors for changing people's mindsets towards them. Pam believes in people, and she understands that by sharing her animal friends' stories, that people will be touched, and this hopefully inspires people to make more kinder choices. In 2003, Pam Ahern devised a plan to raise awareness of the fact that this country's animal welfare legislation is guilty of playing favourites, of treating animals not on their ability to suffer, but rather the shape they are, our familiarity with them and our use of them, and this governs the way they are treated. To this end, a tiny piglet was procured from a piggery. The endearing creature tugged on more than his leash as he pulled Pam in a direction she never could have imagined. Named Edgar Allan Pig, he blossomed into 500 kilograms of porcine brilliance, and before long Pam's world was turned upside down. She quit her full-time paying job, hung up her equestrian boots, and built a sanctuary from the ground up to care for him through his long and happy life. And I had the pleasure of meeting him too, which was great. And Edgar's mission is now home to over 450 rescued farm animals with friends and followers the world over. The mission to advocate on behalf of farmed animals continues with Pam Ahern and Edgar's mission.
Thank you very much for that. Excuse me. It's an honour to be here tonight. Thank you all for coming. As I said to Lee earlier, I actually hate doing these things. I actually hate public speaking. But the one thing I hate more than standing up in front of a bunch of people talking is what's happening to animals right here, right now, on our watch. So this is my stand against that. God bless Mummy and Daddy, Blackie and Tiny, my sister Kathy, Nanny and Grandpa, Nana and Pa, my aunts and uncles and my cousins too. Please keep them safe. Amen. That was my childhood prayer I would recite literally, religiously, every night by my bed 50 years ago. You see, I was brought up in a particularly right-wing conservative family in suburban Melbourne. We were proudly religious, we would go to church every Sunday. We were good people. We did the right thing, we cared about those around us, and we cared about animals too. Animals actually played a very special place in the Ahern family household. Blackie and Tiny, our cats, and Laddie the dog, they got pretty much top billing on my prayer list, second to my mum and dad only. But I remember as a child that any uncomfortable feelings that I had about eating animals was not mirrored by any of those around me. Even the people that I looked up to and respected never showed anything amiss or anything uneasy about eating animals. My first inkling that something was amiss came the day that my mother served my sister and I rabbit stew. And my sister and I remember we protested loudly, "But we don't want to eat the Easter Bunny, but we don't want to eat the Easter Bunny." And it did the trick. We didn't have to eat the Easter Bunny, and never again did a rabbit enter our household dead. But I'm ashamed to say that my reasons for not wanting to eat the rabbit had more to do with retribution from revenge-seeking bunnies than any ethical concerns about eating animals. But I do think it did sow a seed in my mind. It was going to take some 20 years to germinate in regards to the ethical notion of eating animals. And so my animal-loving life, it hopped along. I can never actually remember not having an animal by my side except from when I was sitting in the classroom. Even walking to and from school, I remember that any animal that I could see, I would pat and pet and get my little hands all over them. We had Laddie, as I said, my dog, and Blackie and Tiny, the cats. And just those two cats were my first learning curve about the connections that we can make with animals. Just those two animals taught me that just the same species, there can be so much difference. While Tiny was friendly and amicable and lovely, Blackie was not. He met the world on his terms, it was his terms only, and that didn't include being carted around the house dressed up in doll's clothes in my car. He also taught me that cats' claws are very sharp when they scratch you, and that was also one of my first lessons in learning how to read animals. As I mentioned earlier, Laddie played a special part in my household. I would spend hours in the backyard with my beautiful dog. He taught me about the loyalties of dogs. And while I was in the backyard, I dreamt about horses. I thought they were incredibly amazing animals. Their strength and nobility promised to take me places way beyond the realms of my backyard. But unfortunately, any dreams that I had of ever getting a pony were reined in by our household and the bank balance of my parents that was pretty small. But I was very fortunate that I did actually get my wish for a pony, and I became a very successful equestrian. I travelled all around the country going to horse shows, fairs, winning all sorts of ribbons, but nothing could ever match the incredible bond that I was able to form with those animals, that connection that I was able to make. And I think it was actually those connections that was my success, not so much my ability as a rider, but my ability to actually connect with those horses. I remember one horse in particular, his name was Neville. And the first time I saw this horse, I just thought it was the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen. And I wanted him, but he was way out of my reach. But for a fortuitous turn of events, he ended up mine. And I won the Gary On at the Melbourne show, I won National Rider of the Year, all sorts of awards that were just incredible and people could only dream of. But the most treasured memories that I have with my Neville are those tender moments together where I'd be grooming him in the stable and we'd be riding across the fields together, something that we could never, ever replicate. I was even offered to ride horses for other people, which was something that never sat well with me. I never went on to become an equestrian trainer or even a riding teacher. And I now look back and know why that it didn't sit well with me. And it was because if I could have sat on the horse, which I could have done, piloted around the ring and would have won lots of ribbons, it would have denied me of actually making the connections with those horses that I think made me so special as a rider. So I think I had that inkling then about the connections with animals are really what sets us apart. But when I moved on from the horses, I thought I was living my dream actually with the horses, doing everything that my childhood wanted to do, winning ribbons and going everywhere. But the latter part of my career, I was really uncomfortable and there was something tugging at me, something that was just uneasy. And in 2003, I found out what that was. By that time, I was already a card-carrying vegan, but in 2003, I found out why I was so uncomfortable in the equestrian world, and I found out what that tugging feeling was. And it was tugging on my heart and his lead one day in a park, and yes, you guessed it, wasn't a something, it was a someone. And that someone was a dashing, debonair, witty, wise, wonderful pig that I came to love, and I cannot tell you how much I adored that pig. God, I love that pig. But I guess I should go back a step now and actually tell you about how I had my epiphany to leave animals off the plate. That child I told you about that loved cats and dogs actually grew up and started fostering cats and dogs, and with my mother we started the Central Highlands Animal Shelter, where we would take in the cats and dogs from, we were in country Victoria at the time, cats and dogs from the neighbouring pounds that would otherwise have been taken down to the tip and shot and dumped in the tip. So my mum and I would take them home, we would de-sex them, we would get them health checked, we would worm, we would try and find homes for them, all at our own expense. I was involved with wildlife work, with rescue, helping out at shelters. But one of the driving forces in my life has been my desire to be better. Not better than anyone else, to be a better version of myself. And one of the things that I've learned in my life, that we cannot do better, so we cannot be better until we do better. And how to do better in my life? Well, I was looking in the paper one day, and there was a thing in the paper about products that weren't tested on animals. I thought that's a really good way to go. If I've got a choice between a toothpaste that's tested on animals and a toothpaste that's not tested on animals, I'm going to have the toothpaste that's not tested on animals because I've still got to clean my teeth. That seemed a no-brainer. So I got the list. And then one day in the list, I came across a little article for a fur rally that was in Melbourne, or rather I should say an anti-fur rally that was in Melbourne. And I was curious about the rally, so I rang up and asked the lady about coming to the rally. I was so excited actually. Someone else loved animals too and they're really doing something about it. And I asked could I come along to the rally. And the conversation I had with that lady sits in my mind to this day, and I'm so proud of that lady. Her name was Judy Coward, and I wish I could find her today to just give her a big hug because she was so kind to me. I said to her, look, I wanted to come along to the rally, but I still eat meat. Is that all right? She said, yeah, look, come along to the rally. It's not so much what's on your plate, it's how it gets there, and I want you to think about that. Now, I think back today and all the thoughts that could have been running through my head if I had the same conversation with someone else. And I know a lot of us would just want to bash them about the head and say, you silly fool, what are you doing? But she was kind to me, and I'm really shy now. You can imagine what I was like back then. If she hadn't been rude to me, I would never have gone to that rally. I would have just gone back in my shell. But I went along to the rally, proudly wearing my woolen skirt and my leather shoes and my leather belt. And I didn't say a word because I was really shy, but I listened. And the people there were talking about a book called Animal Liberation. And I was curious. The title did scare me a bit because I was that very, conservative, right-wing family girl. But I got the book and I started reading voraciously. And it didn't take long in the book for me to find a part that really resonated with me. And Peter Singer was talking about a time when he was in England, when he was taken to the local chapter of the RSPCA. And the person thought that they'd share this mutual love and respect for animals. And they did. They were getting on really well, talking about animals and how they could better the world for animals. And it came time for afternoon tea. And they served ham sandwiches. And when I read that, I thought, Peter Singer said, well, that's really weird. And I thought, well, yeah, that's really right, he's got a point. And that was when my life and my menu absolutely changed forever. Overnight, I became a vegan. I announced in the morning to my mother that we would have no animal products in our fridge. That was it for us. And it was a pretty radical thing to do at the time because we lived in a small country town. And the only non-dairy milk you could get was this powdered stuff. You mixed it up with water and it tasted absolutely disgusting. No more would I have a juicy steak in my mouth. No more would I have lamb chops. I just couldn't go back. Now that I'd actually made the connection between the food I was putting in my mouth and those animals that would cause no one any harm, I just couldn't turn my back. I had an incredible sense of relief that I'd made this decision, that I wasn't carrying that burden that I knew was sitting there all that time. But it was also really hard for me because it was so hard to find foods that didn't involve animal products, or at least I didn't know where to look for it. I'd think about the baby calves being taken away from their mothers. I'd think about the little gambolling lambs and the gentle cows and the perky pigs. And I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And my mum and I, we raced out and we bought tofu because that was what vegans ate. And it was disgusting. because we ate it raw. But I have to confess too that I didn't stay a vegan for very long. Well, it was 2 years I was probably a vegan, and I realised I couldn't keep it up until I ran into someone who was a vegan, and they told me that I'd been pronouncing it wrong for all that time. That's how isolated I was. But thankfully now, I can go into my supermarket in Lansfield, country Victorian town, and get 4 or 5 different varieties of soy milk and rice milk and oat milk, almond milk. I can get non-dairy ice cream. I can get vegetarian burgers that are actually vegan. I can get so many products that do not involve animals that my previous little vegan-loving self would have done absolutely cartwheels over. And thanks to Meat and Livestock Australia and their multi-million-dollar advertising campaign, people now know how to pronounce vegan. So back to my Edgar. As passionate as I was about helping animals, I was trying to work out how I could be the most effective animal advocate I could be, how I could be better. And in 2003, I was working with Animals Australia on a campaign called the Save Babe campaign. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about the Save Babe campaign. It deals with our flawed animal protection legislation. One of the things that I love about Australia and our democracy is that our laws can be changed when we find new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things. I remember as a child growing up in suburban Melbourne, and we would go for rides in the country and we would never ever wear seatbelts. And it wasn't because we were a rebel-rousing family and we wanted to thumb our noses at the law or get pulled over by the police. We didn't have seatbelts in cars. But what we did have is a horrific number of people being killed in car accidents and suffering terrible injuries. And our society thought, how can we do this better? And we thought about it for a while, and someone came up with the idea of seatbelts, and then people said, oh, they're going to make cars more expensive, they're going to look ugly, it's going to be cumbersome. But the general consensus was seatbelts will make travelling in cars safer. And thank God they did.
12 minutes.
Thank you. And thank God they did, because a lot of people are alive today because we now have seatbelts in cars. We can change our legislation. So we wanted to change the legislation about pig farming. James Cromwell happened to be in Australia at the time. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could get James on board to raise media interest in our story? And James couldn't do enough for us, which was wonderful. We needed a pig for a photo shoot. We approached one of the children's farms, could we borrow a pig for the photo shoot? And they said, sure, but it'll cost you $150. And I said, pigs. I didn't want to give them money. I have a problem with children's farms in that I don't believe they are particularly honest with the children and the animals that they pet. But I did have a country property, and I did have a desire for a pig, and procure one Edgar Allan pig I did. My task then was to get Edgar humanised and used to people and walking on a leg. So I would take Edgar down to the park, and people came from everywhere to see my pig, El Marl, with his unique brand of pigginess. And he would grunt away to them at just the right moment, and watching people's interactions with Edgar got me thinking that the most successful and profound and best ambassadors for animals are the animals themselves. To give people a chance to meet these animals, to learn what their lives are really like, and then allow them to decide what sort of life they should lead. I remember actually when I was in the stable with Edgar, and I was working out what I was going to do, and I was rubbing that glorious tummy, and he would rub away, and he'd be laughing with his little stomach, and it reminded me so much of what my little cat Tiny was like when she used to sleep in my bed, and I would rub her tummy, and she would purr away at just the right moment. These two animals were the exact same, except for one stark reality. They looked a little bit different. And knowing all farm animals as I do today, I realised those differences are on the outside only, and they certainly don't justify the animals, the way that we treat animals that we farm for food and fibre. So Edgar's mission came into being, and I see it's people's interactions with the animals that we have at the sanctuary has enormous power to change the way these people see them. Clarabelle Cow tells the story of dairy far better than I could, and I see people when they meet Clarabelle, who was a Jersey cow from a dairy farm. She was pregnant and she was being sent to slaughter because she was no longer producing enough milk. She came to Edgar's mission. She calved at Edgar's mission. She calved early, but she didn't realise that she'd calved. And she stashed her baby in the forest at Edgar's mission. And when we realised that she'd had the baby, we found the baby in the forest because we made this big fuss over the baby. Clarabelle moved it. Daily, Clarabelle would move her calf every day because she didn't want it taken away from her, as every one of her calves had been taken away from her so the mother's milk could be harvested for human consumption. We actually made a film, if anyone else might have even seen our little story made it called Finding Valentine. And it wasn't called Valentine because she was born on Valentine's Day, because we didn't know what day she was born. but she was found on Valentine's Day, and I'll talk quickly. She was found on Valentine's Day, and we started the film, and I'm going out, looking for Valentine, and Carl goes, look, hang on, Pam, look, I think you're being a bit melodramatic. I was like, Carl, just cut the film, we've lost the car. Someone's jumped the fence, and they've steal this goddamn car. We got all the staff, we got all the volunteers, and we forensically swept the paddock, and we found this car, and it was just in the smallest pile of grass where we never looked, that she'd actually moved that car and hidden it just so we could find it. And it really gets you here, even as a vegan, to think, I did that to animals, and I had no idea that I was doing that to animals. And I just feel so proud of actually being able to say that mother cow, she's got to keep her baby. And it's just the most amazing thing when you see people who've never thought about animals before, when you tell these stories and the connections that they make. And over, I see it as the personal connections that people make with animals that has the potential to change them for the better. Because animals, in their voicelessness, speak so eloquently of their plight, their vulnerability, and their love of life. They are voiceless. But we humans, through that, we can evoke the most noble of human qualities, those of mercy, kindness, and justice. We can do better. I know if animals did have a voice that we could understand, they would ask you all this very important question. If we could live happy and healthy lives without harming others, including the Easter Bunny, why wouldn't we? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. I loved something you said, a little quote there, Pam, about that you cannot be better until you do better. I love that. And we all think we know it all sometimes, don't we? And in particular with being vegan, I've been vegan 20 years in January, so obviously I know it all. And I'm sure you think you know it all as soon as you become vegan. But there's so many more things you can learn. And one of those things I learned about 6 years ago, and I'm sure you, like myself, go through ingredients list, make sure it's all vegan, make sure it's something you want to consume, and make sure it's not something that you do not want to consume. And I'm sure that you look for companies to put your money towards that you agree with from an ethical perspective, and that you make sure that you don't give money to businesses that you don't agree with or you don't agree with their ethics. And about 6 years ago, when I thought I knew everything about being vegan, I came across Cruelty-Free Super, and it was through Lee Coates, who was in the UK, and he'd been doing similar sort of thing in the UK, and he sent me an email to just say, hey, I'm launching this new thing, you might want to know about it. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. And it made me aware that there's all this time and this energy that we put into making sure that we're doing the right thing for our animal friends, whether it's what we buy from products, from food, to cosmetics and all this stuff. But a large majority of money, and sometimes that's going to be the biggest amount of money that we'll ever have, is our superannuation. And in Australia, we have to have superannuation paid if you're employed. And I realised through what Lee was telling me through Cruelty-Free Super that he launched here in 2010, that my money that was in my superannuation was going to a lot of these companies that I was against on a day-to-day level, and in every time that I made a transaction with my money, I was against all these companies. But my superannuation was going to all these companies that I was against. And that began my work with Cruelty-Free Super. For the past almost 6 years, I've been doing their social media, content creation and marketing. And I'm glad that I got to meet Lee from that. I'm glad I got to learn about those sort of things. And so 15 years after being vegan, I learned something new. And I hope for all of you that you learn something new every day about being vegan, or the world around you and the different people. And that something as simple as some people that go out and protest particular industries or particular places of business, those places you might be protesting against, your super is probably or most likely going to those exact companies. Did you want to set up a slide? So, Leigh and Cruelty Free Super are the presenter of these events. We've been doing this tour. We did Brisbane last night. We're here tonight in Melbourne, and we've got Sydney tomorrow night. And Leigh wanted to create this tour because most people that he speaks to, they have no idea that their money in bank accounts and super funds is financing animal exploitation. He wanted a forum where he could speak directly to people and to explain the way the money system works as a way of trying to get things to change. Leigh doesn't believe that most people want their money to exploit animals, but unless they are aware of what is going on and importantly take action to stop it, then a vegan lifestyle really is not vegan. Leigh would like people to leave with a better understanding of the financial system and a knowledge of how to change things, but he says that his talk won't be boring, so we'll leave that to you to decide. And these people, he hopes once people learn this, that they can spread the word to everyone they know and the ripple effect will start. If we can move hearts and minds to get people to move their money to animal-friendly places, then we can begin to stop the financial system exploiting animals. So Leigh Coates established the first vegan investment funds in the UK in 1992. He pioneered the concept that animal welfare issues were as important as human rights and the environment. In 2010, he launched Cruelty Free Super in Australia, building on the success of the UK funds. Leigh has been an ethical financial planner in the UK for 27 years and in 2011 was awarded an OBE for services to ethical business and finance. Here is Leigh Coates.
Good evening, everybody. I hope the accent's okay and you can understand what I'm saying. It's really nice to have a fantastic panel of speakers that one can feel some sort of link with, and right from a child I always remember loving pigs, so there's the connection with Pam. Chocolate, well, it goes without saying. A bit of an issue with Billy though, because I think I got the bulking up bit wrong. Version 1 and version 2. There might be association too much. Anyway, right, okay. So, trying to make superannuation not boring. I just switched the mic off. It's the easiest way. Right, what I'm going to try and do is give you sort of a very basic overview of the way the sort of financial system works, the way it's all interconnected, and the way that your money is being used. So it's about your money and your vegan lifestyle, and it's just based, as leigh-chantelle said, 27 years as a financial planner in the UK, only dealing with ethical and responsible investment. So our clients in the UK, unless they invest all their money ethically, we don't deal with them. And as the name of the firm is Ethical Investors, we don't tend to have very many people with no ethics coming to us asking to invest ethically, so we don't have to say no very often. Anyway, so building on that experience, and what I found when I first started was that human rights issues were one of the core ethical values. There were the moral issues, porn, alcohol, gambling, tobacco, things that were avoided, the environment, 27 odd years ago, fossil-free, climate change, that wasn't in the vernacular, it was more about save the rainforests. That was the environment and not damaging your backyard. But no matter which way you looked at the ethical issues, the one, I thought, ethical issue that wasn't covered was animals. And basically, even within the ethical investment community, animals are not considered in any way linked to ethics. Now, that's changed from where we are today, but 27 years ago, I wanted my values reflected when I talked about ethics, and that meant people, planet, and animals. And so as much as Billy was maybe a bit of a pariah in the bodybuilding area, I was very much a pariah even within the ethical investment sector, because I wanted animals to be treated the same as people and the planet. So that's a sort of long-term motivation. To try and bring something together and sort of get a flow of thinking going. I'm going to go do a bit of shopping. I believe over here, we call them sausages, which is the proper name. I believe there's a local name, snags or something like that. But anyway, we're going to stick to the real name, sausages. You can have those sausages, or you can have those sausages. Not both. And you can pick your ingredients. Now, is there anybody here that doesn't check the ingredients of what they buy? I'm not saying on absolutely everything, but as a matter of course, do you actually read your ingredients? Yeah? Fairly standard thing, just to check. No one's slipped in a bit of dairy or something like that. Right, so is it also fair to say, other than nothing, one hand went up at the back at the beginning, that no one here is going to want this as part of their ingredients? Yeah, fairly strict. Yeah. So this is what we're aiming for, not this. And so those are the ingredients as a fairly standard thing. I think I found that on a website and a comment from Jamie Oliver of what constituted a bad sausage, and I think that's it. I would love for him to have said that the other one constitutes a good sausage, but he hasn't got that far. But, so I'll do that for him. There's your product, there's your ingredients. Now, when you're saving for your retirement in your super fund, you've also got choice. Super fund is a product. You're able to buy that product, and most people are able to choose that product. And here's some of the products available. That's a particularly good one. And just to make sure, it's down there as well. So here are super funds that most people will have seen the logos for. Because you know the way that super fund advertising goes, you spend a huge amount of money putting a logo on TV showing happy people, saying that without their life would not be complete if they weren't in that or that or that. That's just basic super fund advertising. What they don't really talk about are the ingredients. So what is in a super fund? Now, well, it's got your money in it for one thing, but it doesn't just sit in a shoebox in your name somewhere in the head office of a super fund. It goes places like this. Now, I've pulled these names of companies off the internet in an airport lounge on the way here in 10 minutes. I just Googled some of the super funds that were on the previous list. That one isn't included in, doesn't hold any of these, by the way. So in 10 minutes, I was able to check that standard, well-known super funds in this country are comfortable buying Australian and international shares. So is there anybody that shops here regularly? No? Then why would you put your money there? Why are you paying to keep that company going? Doesn't make any sense to me. Whether you know you're doing it is probably the main question. Because if you don't know you're doing it, the vested interests in these organisations want to make sure that you don't check the ingredients. Because if most people did check the ingredients, even not being a vegan, you can go through that and say, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to go to Macca's, I don't know what Nestle is, but they make some milkshakes, big international campaign against Nestle for 25 years, promoting baby milk in developing countries, so breast milk, now you don't want to do that. Buy expensive imported baby milk, that's much better for children in developing countries. Burberry, well, we'll have a bit of fur back in the high street. You've got animal testing, ooh, animal testing, and some more animal testing, and then we've got a bit of nasty old fuss. But even if you're not vegan, does that sound very nice? I want my super fund in Nippon meat packets. Sounds great, as it sort of trips off the tongue. That's very not very good phrase. Understanding the ingredients of a super fund is absolutely critical. And it's not just critical, it's important, and even more important, it's actually really important, underlined, really important, just in case there was any doubt about how important the importance was. When you're investing, whether you're directly buying shares yourself or whether you're subcontracting that, and by subcontracting I mean you put money in a super fund and walk away, that's you subcontracting something. It's like having a personal shopper going out and the personal shopper saying, well, I'll just go and get dinner from Macca's. They'll never know the difference for a vegan. They probably would, but they should do. But when you're shopping for shares, whether you do it yourself directly or via your super fund, you have to understand one very important thing, and that is that if you own shares in a company, you are the owner of that company, or one of a series of tens of thousands of owners. But the point is, you own a bit of that company, it's yours. You are responsible for it. And over the years, I've heard a lot of people criticising the directors of companies, and people make this association that it's the directors of the company that are doing the bad things. So if you are boycotting a company, the logical link is that it's the directors, if you want to make something personal, it's the directors of the company that you sort of express your anger towards, because they're the ones that are running the company and doing the things that you don't like. But in reality, the directors of the company are no more than custodians. They have a stewardship responsibility. They're looking after the company for the people that own it. Now, whilst the directors might also have shares, the bulk of the owners are not directors, they are the people that own the shares. So, the directors act in the interests of the company. So if the directors decide to expand and do more live exports, increase animal testing, increase the use of battery cages, then they're doing it for you, the owner. And it's with your agreement. And it's a very simple process, which is that if at the next board meeting of a company, the board table is not covered with lots of letters from the shareholders saying, I own a piece of this company and I find it offensive that the company that I own is involved in battery cages and I want you to stop. If that doesn't happen, the board of directors get together and say, on behalf of the people that own this company, not one of them has written to us to say we should be out of battery cages, so we should be doing some more battery cages, because that's exactly what the owners want. Everybody with me so far? So actually, it's not the directors that are doing anything wrong at all. So there's no point criticising the directors of the company to say, why are you in live exports? Why are you in intensive farming? Because they're only doing what they're doing on behalf of the people that own the company. The people that own the company are the ones that put their money into super funds and then walk away, say, not my problem. It is your problem because you own a bit of the business. And to me, it's illogical to protest against a company that you own, because there's only two outcomes from that. One is that you protest against the company and then the board of directors turn around and say, but if you try and stop us using battery cages, we won't make as much money. So then you say, oh yeah, but I like the money, so okay, keep using the battery cages. Or the other option is that they agree with you, they stop using battery cages, and the company goes out of business. So the company that you own, so a bit of your money is invested in a company that you've just put out of business and you've lost money. So my argument is, if you never put money in the company in the first place, you've got nothing to lose by them going out of business. Therefore, the campaigning that you do to try to drive the company out of business makes much more sense. Why would you want to hand money over to a business and say, can you look after this money for me and even try and grow it? And then at weekends, I'm going to try and destroy the business. That's a great game. I really like that one. like a weekly game show. Destroy my company. So just don't invest in it at all. There's not a lot of point. But as far as sort of wider ethical investment issues are concerned, it's not just about animals, as I said before. I like to put them on a par. But other ethical issues that we would sort of look at under the broad umbrella of cruelty-free money, arms manufacturing, live exports, of course, native forest, loggers, using child labour in production. So I've met a lot of people over the years that are passionate against the use of, passionately against the use of children in production systems, and yet haven't made that connection between their money going into a company that makes more profit because it uses child labour, and yet at the same time protesting against the use of child labour in companies. And it's like when people say companies, it's like these things out there that are sort of not really real. It's almost like in a semi-religious way. It's sort of like God, really. You sort of it's out there, but you're not going to meet one. You're not going to meet a company. Well, yes, you are, because you're an owner of it via your super fund or savings. So it's all issues of concern that should be covered in a broad ethical investment policy. And really, as it's your money, surely it should be invested in line with your values, not someone else's. Go back to my example of the personal shopper that you employ to go and get dinner for you, and then goes and gets it from McDonald's, knowing you're a vegan and just thinking, well, it doesn't matter. So they're your values. Your money should be invested in line with your values. One of the questions I get asked regularly is being ethical going to mean that I'm going to get a lower return? Now, I don't know whether anybody can read this, but this is up just off our website, performance to February a few months ago. From the 1st of July last year, in a really bad investment market, so shares were up and down, mostly down, very difficult times. Cruelty-free super managed to return 0.8, whereas the top 200 companies in Australia lost 8.8. So this one's full of mining, animal testing, live exports. This one isn't. Does anybody see a pattern? No. There is a phrase that says past performance is not necessarily a guide to future performance, so there are other stats, so I don't know what that period is there. January 15 to October 15, 43 supers up 9, ASX 200 up 2, and the average growth fund is up 3. Now, everything's on a cyclical basis. One of the good things about this period was that we don't invest in oil, gas, mining companies, and they have had a pretty nasty time. And all the super funds here are very committed to supporting a lot of the things that didn't perform very well, and I don't think will perform very well in the future. I'm getting near the end now. Does that interest anybody? Yeah. Good. Well, there isn't one. But I'm working on it. Working with Animals Australia, trying to get, well, I have got them to get together with a bank, a local bank. Although I did get this talk in Brisbane, and I noticed walking down George Street in Brisbane that there is a branch of this bank in Brisbane as well. So it's bigger than Melbourne. If it gets to Brisbane, it's virtually everywhere. So if anybody finds Brisbane, it's like, well, that's it now, that's Australia done. That's not a bad place. It's certainly warm. So there is one, and if the donations look particularly good, I might actually tell you which one it is, or nearly ready. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And yeah, like Lee said, if you really enjoyed the talks tonight, if you appreciate the event that we've put on, if you appreciate the food, please show gratitude in a monetary way with putting some money into the tin, and it all goes to Edgar's mission, which I'm sure you agree with.